This video tutorial is a guide to understanding the aspect ratios of images. We will apply the information about aspect ratios to a lesson for creating a mock Instagram post. Let's get started talking about images, pixels, and aspect ratios. Aspect ratio simply refers to the proportional width and height relationship of an image. I've opened a photographic image in Adobe Photoshop to help illustrate my point about pixels and the definition of aspect ratios. Adobe Photoshop is a raster-based software program that deals primarily with pixels. To explore any given image, open it in Adobe Photoshop. Go to the Image pull-down menu to Image Size. Let's make sure that we are looking at this image in terms of pixel units. We can now read that this image is made up of 3,024 pixels across and 4,032 pixels down. The resolution, or the density of the pixels, is set to 72 pixels per inch. See the lock symbol here? That maintains the aspect ratio, which means if I reduce or try to enlarge the width of the photograph, the vertical dimension will automatically adjust so that the image does not become distorted. With the horizontal and vertical pixels reduced, the overall image is now reduced in size. Let's undo that command on the History panel and look at another example. Go back to the Image pull-down menu to Image Size and look at the original photograph again. Look what happens if we unlock the aspect ratio by picking on the symbol here. When I reduce the width of the image this time, look what happens to the photograph. It becomes distorted. Let's recap what is important here. All raster images are defined by a rectangular grid of pixels. This number refers to how many horizontal pixels are in a row. This number refers to how many vertical pixels are in a column. Why use Adobe Illustrator to create a post for Instagram? Because Adobe Illustrator hosts object geometry, type, and images all equally well, whereas Photoshop is primarily a raster software program for images. In this assignment, you will be required to add object geometry, type, and images. There are 5 standardized formats defined by aspect ratio that are recommended for Instagram posts. The most commonly preferred post is defined by 1080 pixels by 1080 pixels. This is a 1-to-1 ratio. We will set up the mock Instagram post for the standardized 1080 by 1080 square posting. For information only, the additional standardized postings for Instagram include the following: a landscape orientation feed posting that is 1080 pixels wide by 566 pixels in height. This is a 1.91 by 1 aspect ratio. The next format is the portrait feed posting that is 1080 pixels wide by 1350 pixels in height. This format has a 4 by 5 aspect ratio. The story feed post is defined by 1080 pixels wide by 1920 pixels in length with a 9:16 aspect ratio. The reel feed post is defined by 1080 pixels wide by 1920 pixels in length with a 9:16 aspect ratio format. So this is just like the story feed. There's one thing in common that you may have already noticed, that all Instagram feeds do not exceed 1080 pixels wide, although the height of the post may vary. The last part of this video demonstration will walk you through setting up the mock Instagram post in Adobe Illustrator. Start with a new artboard. Go to the web header at the top of the dialog box for digital output, or set the units to pixels. Make the aspect ratio square at 1080 pixels wide by 1080 pixels high. You only need one artboard. The color definition will be RGB since this is a web post instead of a printed color profile, which is defined by CMYK. The resolution should be set to no more than 150 pixels per inch. Pick the Create and get started. In this assignment, you will need object geometry defined by polygons, shapes, lines, or arcs. Type defined by caption, header, or body of text. And at least one image related to design, education, nature, or one of the interests you listed in the introduction discussion at the beginning of the class. Make sure you utilize the Adobe Creative Cloud library of how-to tutorials if there is something specific you are trying to create. The infinite permutations of student outcomes are too varied for me to cover in this lesson. Have fun!